On this Monday night, a Manitoba family's nightmare. A young father hospitalized with COVID.
I'm learning how to walk again.
And in Ontario, the parking lot party defying pandemic rules. The fury over Belarus forcing a flight to land to arrest a journalist.
It is an unprecedented attack.
Plus dating and vaccinating.
Proof of vaccination opens doors to all kinds of things.
It could mean the difference between swiping left or right.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Robin Gill.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with breaking news about Manitoba. The federal government says it's deploying the Red Cross and the armed forces to help the province get through its brutal third wave. Today, Manitoba reported 353 new cases. More than 5,000 Manitobans are now dealing with active infections. Manitoba is still by far the hardest hit province in terms of the infection rate per capita. In the last 7 days, 240 of every 100,000 people tested positive. And there's so much pressure on hospitals in that province that 4 more critically ill patients have had to be transferred to hospitals in Ontario. A total of 14 Manitobans are now receiving care in Ontario. As Heather Yourex-West explains in tonight's top story, the worst of this wave may still be ahead.
18, 19.
Chris Eastford considered himself healthy and strong, but when he contracted COVID-19 last month, it was less than a week before the 35-year-old found himself in intensive care.
When they told me, like, it's time for essentially a medically induced coma, that crushed me. That it devastated me.
The Manitoba dad spent 12 days on a ventilator. His wife left to watch over FaceTime, unsure if her husband would ever come home.
Our son's only 15 months old now, and she was concerned just as much as I was that he might not have a dad at the end of it.
Eastford was not eligible for the vaccine when he became sick. He's now recovering, but it's a similar story for many others who got infected during Manitoba's severe third wave. Younger patients who have now filled Manitoba's intensive care units to capacity. 11 of the province's 74 COVID ICU patients are less than 40 years old.
Our COVID units are full and our patients are backing up into our emergency departments. So we have COVID patients who were intubated and ventilated in the emergency department.
Others are being transferred to hospitals across Ontario for care.
What we're hearing is we haven't reached our peak yet. That last week we were hearing our peak was 2 to 4 weeks away.
The third wave came later for Canada's prairie provinces. Alberta is also now dealing with more patients in intensive care than ever before.
We've never seen this many patients in ICUs in Alberta. So we're really drawing from everywhere to manage, both in terms of finding physical space to fit the patients, as well as finding healthcare personnel who are trained and able to look after the patients.
The good news for that province, after hitting a record high last week, ICU patient volumes are now beginning to fall, suggesting Alberta's third wave may have peaked, something Manitoba can only hope will happen soon. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
There was a tough setback today for people in Newfoundland and Labrador. Restrictions have been expanded in that province to try and contain a growing outbreak. Gander and several other communities in central Newfoundland are now under Alert Level 4. That's the second highest in the province. It means no indoor dining. Bars, gyms, and arenas must stay closed.
Testing is available for anyone in these affected communities. So please get tested, even if you do not have symptoms. If you are in this region and you do have symptoms, it is very likely not a cold.
More than 30 cases have been linked to the cluster in central Newfoundland. Public health officials say some of the spread took place at social gatherings and sporting events. A large event took place in Ontario this long weekend despite strict COVID-19 restrictions. Hundreds of people gathered in Pickering, just east of Toronto, for a parking lot party. Police say they were aware of the event, but as Sean O'Shea explains, they didn't do anything to stop it.
At least one person was injured, but the result could have been much worse. Car lovers took over this Pickering shopping mall parking lot east of Toronto.
Lots of people, man, over probably 1,000 people here. Cars, modified, everything.
It was supposed to be safe, according to Jonathan Bola, who came to watch.
Stay in your cars, but a lot of people didn't do that.
Instead, some did this.
Drifts, donuts. Yeah, they were drifting all the way around here.
Driving tight circles in the packed crowd.
What these people have done is disrupted our community, flouted, defied the COVID regulations. So it's just unacceptable.
This is the parking lot where the show took place a day later. You can see the skid marks where those cars kept going around and around. Police let it all happen, even though their station is just 2 blocks away. Officers knew about the event. They were at the road outside the parking lot, but they didn't try to break it up.
They weren't worried about people that were in the lot. They were worried about people that were leaving the lot.
Durham police said in a tweet they'll be following up on this matter. Earlier on Sunday, Toronto police also stood and watched demonstrators at City Hall. Protesters at a pop-up clinic noisily trying to discourage parents from vaccinating their children. A Toronto lawyer documenting the event says she was struck while police stood by.
As far as enforcement, we've seen a lot of latitude given to protests. So beyond that, I would say definitely they shouldn't be hitting people.
The police are doing their best to ensure public safety on that broader scale.
But in cases like these, staying back, even when what's going on isn't allowed.
Me and my friends, we're surprised that this thing didn't get shut down.
A parking lot party out of control. Sean O'Shea, Global News, Pickering, Ontario.
Ontario has hit another promising point in its vaccination campaign. According to the province, a total of 8 million doses have now been given out. 1 million of those went into arms in the last week. Overall, more than 51% of Canadians have now had at least one dose. 4.3% have been fully vaccinated. Compared to the last few weeks, this week will be much slower for vaccine deliveries. Only 600,000 Pfizer-BioNTech doses are expected, but starting in June, Pfizer deliveries should reach 2.4 million doses per week. In Japan, efforts are underway to vaccinate the country's elderly population ahead of the Olympics. Mass vaccination centers are now operating in Tokyo and other major cities. The goal is to vaccinate thousands of people over the age of 65 every day. The government hopes the centers will boost Japan's sluggish vaccine drive. Large parts of the country are under a state of emergency as Japan struggles to battle a fourth wave of COVID-19. Today, the U.S. urged its citizens against traveling to Japan because of a sharp rise in cases. The head of the United Nations is calling on world leaders to do more to help poor countries fight COVID-19. The UN Secretary General says the world is at war with the virus and the battle is far from over.
Sadly, unless we act now, we face a situation in which rich countries vaccinate the majority of their people and open their economies, while the virus continues to cause deep suffering by circling and mutating in the poorest countries. Further spikes and surges could claim hundreds of thousands of lives and slow the global economic recovery.
Antonio Guterres says the pandemic has already brought a tsunami of suffering, with more than 3.4 million deaths, the bulk of them in the U.S., Brazil, and India. World leaders are condemning the actions of Belarus tonight. The European Union is taking it a step further, vowing to place new sanctions on the country, including a ban on the use of the bloc's airspace and airports. Yesterday, a fighter jet forced a commercial airliner to divert to Belarus's capital, citing a bomb threat. But as soon as the plane landed, a journalist critical of the president was arrested. As Redmond Shannon explains, the situation will require the EU to strike a delicate balance to prevent Russia from getting involved.
This is the first video of Belarusian journalist Roman Pratasevich since his arrest at Minsk airport Sunday. He says he's in good health and that he was involved in organising anti-government protests following last year's disputed elections. The country's also exiled opposition leader fears for his fate.
A lawyer is already trying to get him, but we don't know the updated information at the moment. But I'm sure that he's in awful circumstances.
Svetlana Tikhanovskaya tweeted that he appears to be under physical and moral pressure. The country's main independent news outlet was shut down by the government this month and more journalists were jailed. But Sunday's events appear to have taken the crackdown to a new level. On Monday, the Lukashenko regime blamed Hamas for issuing a fake bomb threat against the passenger jet carrying Pratasevich. The plane was ordered to land in Belarus Sunday during a flight from Greece to Lithuania. Hamas has denied the claim.
It is unjustifiable that ordinary international travelers have been held hostage to the regime's aggression.
World leaders have called it a hijacking. The European Union has banned its flights from crossing over Belarus and says it will impose new sanctions against the Lukashenko regime.
If we don't have a strong response, it's going to be, endless events like this, and we can't afford this.
Belarus literally sits between the EU and Russia. It's a difficult balance for the West to strike, according to this former Belarusian diplomat.
If you put Russia and Belarus to the same box, and putting them on the same sanctions package, this will bring Lukashenko close to Putin, and it would be easier for him to ask for some economic support.
Lukashenko is reportedly set to meet with Russian leader Vladimir Putin later this week. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Access denied. Coming up, why Samoa's first female prime minister was locked out of parliament. Plus, the nose knows. More proof pooches are valuable weapons in the fight against COVID. Italy's government has launched an investigation into a cable car crash that killed 14 people. The lone survivor, a 5-year-old Israeli boy living in Italy, is in intensive care. His parents, brother, and 2 great-grandparents died. Investigators say the lead cable snapped and the emergency brake failed. The car began to reverse and hit a pylon before plunging 19 meters to the ground. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is en route to the Middle East to help secure a more lasting peace deal. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is holding, but a stabbing today in the East Jerusalem neighborhood that became a flashpoint in this recent conflict shows how volatile the situation remains. Jennifer Johnson reports, and a warning, some of the images are disturbing.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has left for Israel, pledging humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza before meeting in Jerusalem to try and broker a peace deal.
Ultimately, it is the only way to ensure Israel's future as a Jewish and democratic state, and of course the only way to give the Palestinians the state to which they're entitled.
As the ceasefire stretches into its 4th day, tensions are simmering. Police say a knife-wielding Palestinian was shot in East Jerusalem after 2 people, one an Israeli soldier, were stabbed. Hamas's military has paraded through the streets of Gaza, declaring victory in the deadly conflict. But Israelis are claiming victory too.
I'm against the ceasefire with Gaza. I think we should continue the fighting.
We're fighting for our freedom. That's the only way.
In cities across America, there are more pro-Palestine rallies. Protesters are condemning the Israeli strikes that killed at least 100 women and children in Gaza. Demonstrators want the U.S. to stop selling Israel military equipment. There is a pending bill in the Senate to delay those sales.
The United States of America has got to be leading the world in bringing people together, not simply supplying weapons to kill children in Gaza.
Israel says Hamas uses women and children as human shields, storing weapons in places they know Israel will hit. The strikes have turned some public opinion against Israel. In the U.S., anti-Jewish incidents are dramatically increasing, including the smashing of this synagogue's door.
Right now it's just a rock, and they just broke our window, but I don't want to know what's next.
5 U.S. Jewish groups have written to President Biden asking him to take action against the rise in anti-Jewish hate crimes. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
Before leaving for the Middle East, Blinken slapped new sanctions on Ethiopia. The country's forces are accused of human rights violations and atrocities in the Tigray region, where a conflict has raged for more than 6 months. Blinken says the U.S. is taking steps to impose visa restrictions on those believed to be responsible for perpetuating the conflict. Ethiopia is accusing the U.S. of meddling in internal affairs. The woman elected as Samoa's first female prime minister was sworn in today in a ceremony that was anything but traditional. Fiami Naomi Matafa took the oath of office in a tent outside the House of Government because the man she's about to replace locked her out. Her party claimed a narrow majority in last month's election, besting incumbent Tulepa Saleli Malalagawi. Matafa was once his deputy PM until she broke away to challenge him. There have been weeks of turmoil in the South Pacific nation. The Supreme Court had to intervene and ordered Parliament to convene so the new government could take power. Still ahead, their sense of smell is helping sniff out COVID-19. Some optimism to share tonight in terms of how fast and how accurately COVID-19 can be detected. Researchers in the United Kingdom working with specially trained dogs found the animals quickly identify the virus 94% of the time. Now, this is important because there are parts of the world still battling rising infections. And as Crystal Gumansing reports, these canines may be our new friends in this pandemic fight.
That's a good boy.
Those puppy dog eyes may make you melt, but their noses could actually save your life.
The dogs could detect correctly if somebody was infected with COVID 94% of the time. And what's really incredible about these dogs is that they can do it really, really quickly.
The findings come from a joint research project between London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine and Durham University. For months, they have worked with 6 medical detection dogs, teaching them to recognize the scent of COVID-19 and testing the dog's ability to identify samples.
And interestingly, they could do it irrespective of the level of virus that the patients had. So they could detect people with low viral loads just as readily as they could those people with high viral loads.
The findings have not been peer-reviewed, but they are in line with other canine trials. A pilot project at the Helsinki airport last year saw dogs correctly identify nearly every sample. Thai researchers reported their dogs had a 95% success rate with roughly 2,000 samples. Dogs are now being deployed in Bangkok. The extra help comes as the virus takes a heavy toll.
More cases have been reported so far this year than in the whole of 2020. On current trends, the number of deaths will overtake last year's total within the next 3 weeks.
Quickly identifying cases and isolating those who are ill is key to keeping the virus from spreading.
This is something that could really change the way in which diagnostics could look, because you could do a rapid screen and then follow it up with a PCR test.
Researchers say it's still early, but several countries are working with dogs to confirm how our four-legged friends can help in the fight against COVID-19. Crystal Gumansing, Global News, London.
Up next, the new feature in dating apps that may improve your shot at love. A couple in India skirted that country's COVID-19 restrictions and tied the knot on a chartered flight crammed with family and friends. There were 160 people on board the 2-hour flight. India's aviation authority has now launched an investigation. The airline, SpiceJet, says the plane was booked by a travel agent. Airport staff say they were unaware the couple was planning the sky-high ceremony. Are you looking for love? Dating isn't easy in a pandemic. First, there's the risk of getting the virus in an intimate moment. Then there's the vaccination situation. Now, some apps have an added feature to give single people another shot at finding a perfect match. Here's Catherine Ward.
The pandemic has dealt a tough hand for those looking for love.
You don't really get a feel of exactly how the person is when you're just chatting with them online.
While I have been out of the dating game for some time, my friends tell me the stakes feel so much higher with COVID-19.
I found that I was always the person having to create the boundaries around physical distancing and to state my boundaries and those things. And some guys were into it and some guys weren't.
Pre-pandemic, people might have been searching for a partner of a certain age, gender, religion, or background. But in 2021, many want to know your vaccine status.
People do want to know, and people are asking up front. Even if being vaccinated isn't like 100% your thing or important to you, your health should be.
In the U.S. on Friday, the government teamed up with several dating websites trying to encourage people to get a shot.
Social distancing and dating were always a bit of a challenging combination.
On OkCupid, for example, users in the U.S. can now display badges indicating they've been vaccinated and also filter out people who haven't. If a person participates, the company also provides incentives. They plan to expand this globally. It's not clear if other companies will follow suit. In a statement from Bumble, a spokesperson says vaccine badges and complimentary super swipes are currently U.S. only.
It's a kind of vaccine passport in some ways.
Still, some experts are not discounting the idea.
Proof of vaccination opens doors to all kinds of things like maybe theaters, travel, schools, certain jobs. Why not dating?
Because while a vaccine may or may not be a deal breaker.
I did meet someone online. I knew that he was eligible for a vaccine and he just hadn't signed up yet.
It very well could be part of your love story.
It's kind of a condition of dating me that you make an appointment to get vaccinated. And he said, okay, I will.
Catherine Ward, Global News, Toronto.
It's a whole new level to modern love. And that is Global National for this Monday night. I'm Robin Gill. Tonight, your Canada is the Prairie Lily Riverboat in Saskatoon. We would love to see your corner of the country, so please keep sending your photos to viewers at globalnational.com. Thank you for watching. Donna Friesen will be back tomorrow, and I'll see you next weekend. Have a great night.